Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cyber Therapy. My name's Ashley Lee. I am Senior Marketing Manager here at JupiterOne, and here is my lovely co-host, Tony
Tony
Ramirez.
Ramirez, the one, the only.
Woo! Round of applause.
Yes, yes.
We are so glad that you're here. If this is your first time joining the show, we are literally just kicking off season 2. We started with at the first of the month with just me and Tony, and today we've got a great guest for you. And this season's going to be really all about getting to know people, the relationships that they build within their organizations, how they're able to improve teamwork, communication, because those are the things that make things run, processes run well at organizations, especially when there's a lot of change. So, I think today we wanted to kickstart the conversation with a poll that we started last episode, which was, is it more important to start with your technical knowledge and then learn how to communicate it well? Or do you start with learning how to communicate well and then pick up the technical knowledge along the way? And the results that I got were probably more indicative of my connections and my network, but it was like 55-45 split with comms first, then technical in the lead. So, what do you think, Tony? What
I'll
are your
be
thoughts?
honest
How
with
would you
you.
interpret that?
Let me start off by saying this. When I first saw your poll, I was like, well, I asked that question. And then, but jokes aside, I looked at it and uh, I didn't know how to answer. I put technical first and then I slept on it. And I woke up the next morning and I'm like, I changed my mind. I'm putting communication first. And it, it, it sounds,
Why?
I started thinking about kind of going back to school and understanding I had a teacher who was big on having people present information that they were working on, and he once a week he would have people come up and explain what they were working on because they were eventually going to have to do a whole presentation on it.
Mm-hmm.
I also had once to take a class at one of like Chicago's Illinois law schools, and like if you've ever been in a law class, you've always seen the movies where they point at somebody at random and they're like, "Tell me about this thing," and
Uh-huh.
if you know it but can't communicate it, you kind of like lose points. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it got me to thinking, yeah, communication is key. I know your answer. Your answer was 100% obvious to me, but
Well, I think it's changed over time for me, which I think
mm,
I said on the last episode. I don't remember. But I like when I started in marketing operations, I was like, I got to learn like how these integrations work and how the data flows
mhm,
and what's important to like different people who
mhm,
are using the information. So it's very much like understanding the technical setup and architecture of whatever tools we were putting into our MarTech stack. And
I think.
then as I tried to talk to people about why is it important to get this other tool or why is it important to do it this way, I found
Mhm,
myself struggling to communicate the value. It was just like in my
mhm,
head, it was like, it just makes sense this way. But the reality is, like, we have to work with so many people. And
mhm.
so you have to be able to communicate it in a way that makes sense to other people to bring people along on the journey,
I
right?
agree. I think I originally thought like early career it makes sense to get super technical and like like initiate yourself with the information, make it a part of you. But then I started thinking about most of the time we have this dream that we're going to talk to somebody and they're going to be like, yeah, but that's only true if they're an expert. Like
Mm-hmm.
the I think again, if we did a TLDR of what we spoke about last time, it was communicating effectively is important, but the value of the information is all that ultimately matters to the general populace. So,
Yep. And how you
yeah,
share it.
I think it's a ping pong. That's my answer.
Yeah, I think
You
that
gotta bounce between the two.
it depends on the context
Hmm.
and who you're talking to, right? Like if you're trying to work
Oh
with
yeah.
other technical people to set up something, it's probably best to be technically sound, right?
Hmm.
And be able to communicate in the same language that everybody else is using. But if you're trying to communicate to a mass audience,
Hmm.
and trying to get more people on board, right, with the new wave of security as culture, security awareness, getting people on board to adopt more secure practices. Um, You got to use language that people can understand and not get sucked into the nitty gritty of the tech. So, all right. So
Yep.
enough of the topic. Let's see. The other topic that I wanted to ask that I thought was really interesting is personality tests. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about scaling a team. We're going to be talking about product security, and we will be bringing our guest on in just a minute. But Tony, have you taken any personality tests?
Funny enough, I have a friend told me I have to take this personality test, this personality test, this personality test, and when like looking back at it, I remember telling you, like, ah, like who cares? And then I finally went around. I took the result. I took one of those tests. I think it was like Myers Briggs or something, and I was like, oh, this is
Yeah, the
really
16
interesting.
personalities.
hmm
Do you remember what you were?
And I don't remember what I was, which might tell you about my
I,
personality type.
but I actually do remember what you were. It popped into my head as we were starting this. You
Really?
are the debater.
Yes. hmm
Doesn't that just fit?
Yeah, it does. I'm not going to debate you on that.
Okay. All right. Well, I have also taken it. I am an ISFJ in the Myers Briggs, which I think that one is the defender on the 16 personalities test. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, on that note, let's go ahead and bring our guest on because I'm curious to know what his personality test is. Personality is. So we'll go ahead and bring on Michael Roberts. He is the manager of product security at Abbott, and we are so glad that you're here. Hello.
Hey, glad to be
Awesome.
here.
Oh, yeah. So, have you taken a personality test? Have you taken the Myers Briggs?
I have taken the Myers-Briggs. Yeah.
Oh, and what is your
I was
personality?
I was an ENTJ commander. I think was the name for it.
Wow, you're
Wow.
literally the opposite of me in almost every single
What?
one except the J.
No. Am I more
Uh-oh.
similar to Tony at least?
I
Yeah.
mean, I think the debater
ENTJ.
is like a extrovert too, right? I
hmm
remember you being an E. I don't remember what the actual breakdown of the debater was. I just remember the debater name. So
hmm
cool. Um, I just think it's so fascinating to find people's personalities and how they mesh because then
hmm
I can read up on an ENTJ to know your weaknesses as
hmm
well as your strengths.
Or
Um,
strengths. Or strengths.
so very cool. Well, we're so glad that you're here, Michael. Thank you for taking the time to join us on our show. And I guess for the people on the line, as well as myself, because I'm curious about this too, can you explain what product security is? Because I'm not sure.
Sure.
How is it different from like product management, product security, application security? Like there's a lot of different terms out there. So curious to know how you define it.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a clear definition for product security off the top of my head, but in general, it is working to make products that your group develops more secure, starting with from the very beginning of the process, design, development of those products, working to integrate security into all aspects of that. I think it may go a bit beyond application security in that you're not just focused, purely on the application. You're also focused on sometimes the infrastructure that runs it, or the policies, that go into making it, or the build process for that particular product. So kind of spans the full life cycle of the device versus I don't know, maybe a more scoped application security group.
Very
That's awesome.
cool. Very interesting. Yeah,
hmm
because I've definitely seen product security titles from like a lot of companies who do like IoT, like they have
hmm
devices that they need to secure and they sell. Um,
Yeah, I see it a
well,
lot in like a lot of industries. I think like the like not to say like application security titles are going away, but I think product security is kind of the the new hotness. And not even so new, but just yeah.
I
Yeah,
So
just
I,
think
I'm
it's an
glad.
ex-
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just saying, I'm glad. I'll take it. I'll take the on the rice.
Mhm.
How did you get to your role?
Yeah, I'm
Um,
curious too, Michael, because like you've got an interesting background. Uh, like I remember when we first met, I was like, oh, you've kind of like you've changed roles a couple times since we've met, and you know
mhm.
you've 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 kind of had a cool path.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Let's see. So I could go into my background a little bit more of how I kind of got into security, and then my initial role and kind of how that's evolved. So I initially, I guess, found out about the security industry uh, via an interesting mechanism. I was in high school and found out about cybersecurity competitions. So there's like a competitive environment where teams from different schools go against each other trying to defend a network or environment or a particular host. And found out about those and was really interested in them. Back to the personality test question. In the like Gallup Strengths Finder assessment, my number one strength is competition. So I really like competition, and that was really interesting to me. And then as soon as I turned 18, I started working full time in security, and then went and got my bachelor's, and then eventually master's, and I've stayed in the field.
Very cool. Were
Yeah.
you like did you go into like offensive security or were you security engineer or like where did you start your path? I'm more
Mhm.
asking just because I don't know how do you get into product security, right? Are there
Yeah,
different
no,
paths
that's
in or
fair.
did you have to be technical, right?
Yeah. I think there's different paths in, but yeah, you definitely have to have a technical background, just application security and some of the other things I mentioned in product security earlier are quite technical. I think you do have to have that base layer of knowledge. I have done a variety of offensive and defensive roles. I did some like pen testing consulting, some internal like red team pen testing work as well. But I've really enjoyed the defensive side of things. I really enjoy taking something from the inside and finding out more about it, and working on making it more secure. Uh, so
Awesome.
in my current organization, I started as a security engineer, working on leading a few efforts related to just improve security of a particular product, and then grew into leading all of the technical security areas for uh, that product, and then have grown into like recruiting and hiring and helping grow people, and managing those people, and just kept kind of growing that responsibility.
That's so cool. Was this something that you like sought out on your own or were there other people who were like, "Hey, you seemed like a good fit. Like, you want to step into this role and start managing a team?" Or was it like
Yeah.
for you like because you had the drive to like climb the ladder?
Yeah, a mix of both. I think in previous organizations, I've had people notice that I'd make a good leader, or I took particular initiative in a certain area, or had some of the soft skills necessary to do that role. Here, it was some of that, some of me showing ability to do that, and experience leading different initiatives, and then yeah, also me wanting uh, that role, me trying to grow my own skills, and get better at some of those areas that were needed. So I'd say a mix of both.
Let me ask you this, because it you went from being somebody who was actively maybe like a doer who was testing these things, and then managing people who were doing those things,
Mhm.
and that's a weird transition. Um, What do you recommend to somebody who's going through that?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's definitely a weird transition. Just the idea of um, not doing it yourself, not doing the tasks yourself. It really, the first thing most people would say would be like the importance of delegation. Um, so, I mean, that is what I would recommend to a new manager. Learning to delegate effectively requires kind of moving towards like giving off a task, but still, overseeing the completion of it to uh, kind of a more mature model of like completely letting somebody else own a particular task or a particular area, and that's kind of a hard transition to do, especially if you think you can do that task yourself, immediately or quicker or better or whatever the case may be. It's definitely hard.
Is there any like particular mantra or motto or like mindset that you have to like remind yourself of when you're like, oh, I can do this so much better, but I really should delegate? Like, what helps you get over that hump to just let go?
I mean, the easiest answer is hire people smarter than you, and then I can't do it better. Um, but uh, but for sure, like just have to remember that if you want to scale your team, more effectively, or scale your responsibilities, one person doesn't scale as much as you can do with enabling a number of people. So yeah, just remembering that, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think in our pre-call you were saying how, when um you got acquired, right? You were originally supporting one product, securing one product, and now you've had to grow to a much bigger portfolio. So, obviously you can't hire like 10 people at a time. I think you've had to like justify adding more headcount over time, right? So take us a little bit through the journey of like what were the first things that you wanted to accomplish for the first few people on your team? What were kind of some of the things that you looked for in like their personality or their strengths, and as you started to build out your team?
Yeah. I think anybody that I've been able to hire at either my current organization or previous ones, I've been looking for both a technical skills fit, as well as some of the soft skills that were mentioned along with the survey that you guys did after the previous show. So, like being able to communicate effectively to different audiences, or really being able to learn and teach yourself new skills, technical or soft skills or whatever it may be. So I think looking for people that are able to learn and have a deep experience in whatever you're trying to hire them for. And then I think one thing that is often overlooked, either with hiring new people, or trying to grow out a team, I think you often overlook the importance of people being in the right role. Uh,
Mhm.
so like Gallup again um, has this. Let's see, has this model of like kind of an organizational leadership that like people should be in a role where they're doing what they do best every day.
Mhm.
They say that leads like 14% increased profitability for the organization if everybody's in a role where they do it best. So just because somebody has technical skills in one area, um, you really should have them work in an area that they do best, instead of trying let's see, just fit people into like odd positions and stuff like that.
Mhm. So
Interesting.
was there so early on in your team building, then did your earlier team members have to cover more skills and more uh,
Yeah,
areas of expertise, or
for
how did
sure.
you do that?
Mhm.
For sure, yeah. So kind of my thought process there was just something I've had to learn more of, like somebody that say may have a deep, technical expertise. At the time, I, really need them to complete, a particular task, or, I think, you know, uh, it's, something that they could do. Like I think you have to realize as a manager, also what the other person does best and what they want to do, in order to be able to keep them long term and able them to see growth. So I think it's more something a manager needs to learn, just the importance of people really like focusing on what they do best, not um, anything
Not just the
else.
tasks at hand that need to get done.
That's
Ah,
Mhm.
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, you have
I like
a
the perspective.
like I really like your team because I think I've met all of them now. And every one of them is just like super kind but brilliant. Like every one of them is like that they're so zoned in on what they're doing that they get it, they know what they're looking for, and they communicate it really well. And like just based on what you're saying, it's really clear that when you went out and you looked for candidates, you were looking you kind of followed that philosophy. And yeah, like again, but the other thing I'll say too is um, that I can't say enough about this. I said this during the prep call. Your team are like some of the nicest people that I've worked with. They're so kind and they're so like they're kind, creative, collaborative people. Like that is the best way to describe them.
Perfect. I
Was
am
there
glad.
was
Love to
there
hear it.
anything was there anything that you did in particular to like graft them in so that that collaboration kind of was organic, or was it kind of just that's just how they were and they adapted to the group and it kind of just grew organically?
Yeah, maybe a mix of both. I think we do a good job of onboarding and showing our culture and helping people kind of grow into that mindset. But then also, I've done a lot of referrals and a lot of other people within our cybersecurity organization have also referred people that they've worked with before. They know they can collaborate with, and they've already have that background, which definitely helps the process.
Yeah, that makes a lot
Yeah,
of
I
sense.
think definitely referrals. Referrals are definitely a great thing.
Yes, I
And I'm
agree.
saying that because
Each of you referred the other.
I definitely referred him in.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I got no shame on that, but that's because like
Hmm.
Tony at the time of our organization, because this was over a year and a half now
Hmm.
ago. We were much smaller, right? And so the reason why I'm asking like you questions about like the different stages is because it's I feel like there's similarity like with the stages of growth of a company, right? There are certain people that you want to hire early on and that are really cool to work with because they are multifaceted and they can collaborate in a lot of different ways. But then as you grow, like you probably want more specialists, right? As you grow bigger. And so it's an interesting transition, right? To go from initial hiring your first few initial hires of being multifaceted and being able to cover a lot of ground to growing to I think you said you have a team of 10 now,
Yeah,
right?
10 right now and hiring two more. So 12 total.
Woo! Awesome. And are you getting to a point where it needs to be hierarchical, or like are they all it's still pretty flat organization for you?
Yeah, I think we will eventually get there. But right now, focused on growing kind of each person and a flat organizational structure.
Nice.
That's cool.
Very cool. We got a comment here from Carter. Thanks for chiming in, Carter. He said, if people are willing to refer their friends and past colleagues, I feel like it's a huge indicator that you have a healthy team. And I would agree, but I'm also biased because I'm here at JupiterOne. So, Michael, curious to know what you think on this.
Yeah, for sure. If you want somebody to come work work where you're at, if you want someone to come be a part of where you're at, unless you have something against them, you wouldn't refer them to an unhealthy organization. So 100%
Mhm.
that makes sense, and it's a good way of thinking about it. If you're in an organization where people aren't willing to refer anyone or consider spreading that position to their network, then maybe some internal soul searching on the healthiness of that culture.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Makes sense.
totally does.
All right. I want to pivot just a little bit because we've talked a lot about like your team, building your team. And I'm curious to know because part of what I am on this mission to is to understand just like the dynamic between security teams and non-security teams. So I'm curious to know from your perspective, is there anybody in your organization, like roles, you don't have to say names, but like roles that have been like really good partners to you to ensure the products that you ship are secure? And like, what are the hallmarks of that kind of partner with you?
Yeah, I think in any product or application specific security role, like your number one partner is going to have to be the engineering teams that work on those products, every day, that write them and that know them inside and out. So I think the hallmark of that relationship, and I'm lucky to have a good relationship with our engineering organizations, is I'm willing to really take initiative and lead the security of those products. So we, may have a new tool or a new policy or a new idea in making a product secure, but having that buy-in from leadership of the teams that's going to implement it is key. Having them, to give feedback on those ideas and help drive the quick implementation of it, I think is vital.
Cool. Would you be willing to indulge me on what a typical conversation like that would look like? Like, is it just you're coming to them and you're saying, "Hey, we gotta implement this new policy because of XYZ compliance update, whatever," right? Does it usually start from that, or is it how does that normally happen? I guess is the question.
Yeah, I don't know if I have really any specific examples worth sharing. Just the note I would say there is maybe ideally it's even before that. If you notice a potential issue or a potential concern, just having a collaborative uh, conversation where it's not, all right, I have this policy. It's okay, we have this issue. Like, what are your thoughts? What would you recommend? So just early
Mhm.
collaboration on the
Interesting.
process is a lot more effective than going to somebody with an already decided solution.
Sounds like you
Huh.
like having that dialogue. Like that's important for your team to be successful. Like and then again, to give it back to Ashley, it's communication, communication, communication.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
you
mean, it
changed
sounds
your vote then.
Yeah. I'm glad I did too. I I was afterwards I was like, I'm gonna be kicking myself in the butt if I don't change it. And have to have this conversation on Wednesday.
It's all good. I think also though the other part of communication is your approach, right? Like I guess you could umbrella approach under communication because in order to persuade somebody you have to like come to in a certain way. But anyways, the it sounds to me like instead of what you said prescribing a solution, you are presenting, hey, this has changed or this is a potential problem. How do you suggest that we handle it in a proactive way? How does it, fit with the priorities and whatnot? Which I think is, um, I think that's cool to see because I think security has a branding issue where they're just like cracking the whip, right? And they're like, "Hey, we got to change this," or "Hey, something's gotta um, you are the owner of this, so therefore you have to change this the way I tell you to do it." And it's very more
Mhm.
like dictator or like that's the old way, right? And I think a lot more organizations these days are recognizing that that way doesn't work anymore. It's not a tyrannical kind of leadership style that will work anymore. You definitely have to
Mm.
be a lot more collaborative. I think that's an influence from the evolution of like engineering teams, right? They're not
Mhm.
the
The
whole
pace.
transition from heroing to being much more collaborative and working together on problems. And I think that I've seen that influence into cybersecurity too, which is cool. Sorry,
For
I've
sure.
dominated and was on my soapbox for a little bit. But I think that's just so cool to see it like live in action. You're here like talking to us about it. And it's just it's what gives me hope for the future of cybersecurity, honestly, is that there are people like you who are taking that collaborative approach and you're being proactive about what needs to change, but like you're not held so closely to what the
Mhm.
solution is. So very
Yeah.
cool. All right. Let me think. What's the next question? Tony, you had a question you want to ask?
Yeah, I think just to kind of repeat what Ashley was saying, it's great, and I think I know the answer to this question, but um, it, it sounds like you said what already what motivates you to stay in cybersecurity, and it's competition, but like you have this competitive edge, and it's something
That's
like
what got him started. Is that actually
that's
That's
what
what
is
got me
continuing to
started.
keep
Yeah.
you
mhm,
No, not necessarily
no?
competition. Although cybersecurity does have a interesting aspect there in that it's always you against, if you're defense, it's you against somebody trying to
Mhm,
compromise the application, um, or vice versa if you're on offense. So
mhm,
it does
here?
have that atmosphere that I do like. But I think there's other areas of cybersecurity that also motivate me to to stay in it. That we mentioned earlier, actually about the like evolution of security. I like that it's a growing kind of field. It hasn't been around as long as maybe some other areas, and we're still learning a lot. We're still
mhm,
maturing a lot, and in the way that we defend systems and the way that we better collaborate with other people in our org, or even recently just the way that we better communicate security to executives and stuff like that. So
mhm.
I like a lot of those areas of our field too.
Yeah, you have to be
I'm
super
curious.
collaborative. I think there's fun in
It,
that.
yeah, sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like it's fun. I personally find myself to be somebody who likes to tinker in a bunch of different things, and at certain levels of cybersecurity, you get to do that. You get to explore, and then you get to talk about it. Sometimes you're telling people bad news in a good way or good news in a bad way, but um, it's fun. It is a fun place to work, and
Good news in
yeah,
a bad way. Never mind. I'm not going to
How
think too much
so?
about that. But
don't think too
Okay,
much into it.
all right.
Don't think too
do you
much
have an
into that.
example? Okay, I will not read too much into that. Okay. I'm going to quickly, before I lose it, the question that I was going to ask. You've mentioned the Clifton Strength Finders test multiple times. And I'm curious, one, beyond competition, what were your other like top four strengths?
Uh-huh.
And then did you also have your team do it? How has that impacted like how you grew your team?
Yeah. So yeah, I mentioned my number one strength on that assessment was competition, and I've done the assessment actually a couple of times. I did it for the first time at a previous organization back in like maybe 2018. that had everybody take the assessment so that you had like a shared understanding and a shared like kind of conversation topic with everyone. And then at my current org, it had been a few years since I've done it, so I took it again and got competition as my first strength, and then maximizer, and then arranger is my third. The
Oh.
next, yeah, so competition, maximizer, arranger is my top three, and then yeah, I've recently within the last 6 months, or yeah, maybe 6 months, have encouraged other people on my team to take the assessment and find out their top strengths. So that kind of guides guides what areas people can contribute more to. If you have a top strength of strategic, which some people on my team do, then maybe you can help more with planning, or coming up with strategy for initiatives, or relational. You can help with help collaborate with other teams and stuff like that. So it goes back to having people in roles that fit them well, that they get to do what they do best every day, and they get to focus on their strengths, and it's been cool.
That's awesome. I took the Strength Finders test probably, I think, 3 years ago now. My top three were empathy, connected, connector, and developer, I think, were the top three. So they were all in like the relational realm, not in the execution realm, or not in like any of the other like strategic like groupings that they have. Um, and so I think it's interesting because I feel like for a good functioning team, you need a balance of a lot of different strengths,
Sure.
right? To pull together as a team. So
I'm gonna have to
cool.
take this test. I don't think I've taken it, or I have, and Ashley remembers my results.
No, I
I
don't
don't
think you
think I have.
have either.
So, but I'm gonna have to take this test now. I'm
Yes, do
curious what I'm
it.
gonna end up
And then
with.
report back on the next
I
episode.
will. I will.
Okay, cool. Okay, one more question I think before we head to the game session is so I read an HBR article, like the differences between being a leader is different from being a manager, right?
Mhm.
So, and it requires different skill sets to hone. And so I wanted to just open it and ask you, like, what are your thoughts on the differences between the two, and how can people look for opportunities to shore up one side or the other?
All right, yeah. I I think maybe manager has like somewhat of a negative connotation sometimes, like compared to leader. Like definitely seen articles, or uh, tweets or something that would say like be a leader, not a boss or a manager. So I think leader has a more positive connotation. You are leading by example, and you're not overbearing, and you're doing what's best for the long term health of your organization. So that's kind of what I think about in the differences there. Um, I was also thinking about this kind of beforehand, thinking about a situation that I had recently, where I was like, mentoring a young manager. Just started managing a group, and I observed them like a couple times, like when they were talking to their team, be like, "Yeah, as your manager, I want you to do this," and
And
like I
cracking the whip.
found that very weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
cracking the whip back to earlier. Like told them like you obviously don't need to remind your team that you're the manager. They haven't forgotten that you I think you should definitely lead by for example, and by having maybe the right answers by experience, but then being willing to listen to differing opinions and being willing to receive feedback and stuff like that. So definitely an interesting area.
I think
Definitely.
when
It,
we talked a little bit about it, and I think it's interesting because I agree with you. Manager always has kind of a weird connotation to it. It's also kind of like a static description. Like we know what a manager means, but when you hear the phrase leader, it's like this dynamic thing.
inspirational, aspirational kind of feeling.
Inspirational,
Hmm.
yes, yeah,
Mhm.
and and it's it's you hope that you're both because nobody wants to be well. You'd hope you're one of those. You'd obviously want to be a leader. Everyone wants to be a leader. Like
Uh-huh.
being a leader, like looks cool. You're like you're the
You're
hero.
inspirational. You get people to
Yes,
follow you.
inspirational. Yes.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I
But
will
nobody
say
wants to
though,
be
like,
just a manager. Go ahead.
well, yeah, I mean, in order to be a good manager, you have to be a
Hmm.
leader because you have to be able to champion ideas and initiatives, right?
Hmm.
And get like buy in from your peers and buy in from leadership. And so there's definitely like leadership aspects to being a manager. Whether you're good at it or not is a different story, right? And that's a skill to be honed.
Hmm.
But I think, Michael, in you explaining your top three strengths finders, I find it interesting that a ranger is up there because I don't know why, but that shifted kind of my perspective on management because you are trying to arrange people into a role that they will be happy in doing, succeeding at, right? And then making the necessary changes as you go around. And now I don't know if that's the right definition of a ranger, but that's how I interpreted it in my head, which I thought was just an interesting correlation with like your role, how you approach your team, and then also your strengths. So super cool.
For
I'm
sure,
just
yeah,
learning so much.
it is. I recently had to describe like just my role in like one sentence, and in the sentence I chose for that was I remove blockers and I help advance people and programs. So not just the advancing programs aspect, but helping advance people is a key part of the role.
That's great.
So cool. All right, shall we? Are we ready for a little game?
Let's do it.
So it.
Cool. That's so perfect. I really love that segment. All right, today's game is Would You Rather? So, a little more chill, not as super competitive, though now that I found out that your
Hmm.
top contender is, I'm a
I'm
little
ready.
disappointed. Actually have like a competitive game. But anyways, I guess we could make this one competitive. We're gonna play Would You Rather, and you're going to share your reasoning for why you chose a certain way. And if we get into a debate, I guess if you win the debate and you're able to sway the other person, that's a good thing, right? A winner.
We have a debater though here.
Yeah. So this is
Here we
perfect
go.
then for you, for Tony and Michael to compete. Okay, I think we're good here. This is a good matchup.
Let's do it.
All right.
I might end up just
So,
agreeing with Michael, though. Be aware of that.
Perfect.
all right, first question. Would you rather have more time or more money?
Hmm.
Michael, go first.
Okay. I mean, I definitely think time. Uh, yeah. Let's see. To have a good reason behind it that Tony can't argue against. Um, uh, I mean, time's a very limited resource and one that you can't, directly control.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't think many people when when they're towards the end of their life, reflect back like, oh, if I just, had more money, really, more time with loved ones and friends, and more time, doing what, they wanted to do or what they did best, is what I think most people would wish they had more of.
Yeah, I agree with Michael. I like again. I think. Do you want me to get philosophical, or do you want me to get just to the
Go
point?
for it. Be philosophical.
Time
That's
is
why
do it.
time
part
is
of
a
this game is
finite
great.
resource. There is no backwards. There is only forwards, and it is finite, and it is as scalar as it gets. There is no you can't buy it, and you can certainly sell it, but you know
You
time
can't get it
is
back.
that. Yeah, you can't get it back. That's it. It's yeah, it's truly the most important resource.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we're all in agreement here because I also agree that I would rather have more time than money. Um, because
Give
then
us a
you have
harder one,
more money.
Ashley.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. I just wanted to start
Next.
with an easy one. Okay, would
Appreciate
you
it.
rather star in a Star Wars film or a Marvel film?
I'll go first on this one. I'll go
All right,
first
go
on
for
this
it.
one. Um, we're talking movies, so I'll answer
Yes.
it from the perspective of what you said. I'd rather
Okay.
be in a Marvel movie. I'll say that. Um, for the
Why?
people out there who are extreme Star Wars fans, TV series that have come out recently, pretty great. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I won't go further than that. I will end on that. But if you're in a Marvel series, like, who do you get to play? Are you a superhero? Are you a villain? Like, there's kind of fun things there, and there's a lot of different characters you could be that aren't really fixated on this. And they're a little. I don't want to say they're more grounded, because nothing in those movies is really ever that grounded. Um, but I would pick Marvel. I think it would be more fun.
Yeah. I was also gonna ask, what role do you have? Are you just a bystander, or are we talking the main character in
Oh
It
these
yeah.
says star.
movies?
So
Okay,
whatever
star in a
the word
Marvel. Got it.
star thinks
Um, so
means to you.
Hmm.
I would also have to choose Marvel in that case. Just I don't know, infinite possibilities with
Hmm.
multiverse and just I don't know. I think it'd be more fun just subjectively. No
You
clear reason why. Do you have a different
Mhm.
answer, Ashley? Really?
No, I'd agree with you. I mean, I think Marvel films are cool. I'm actually gonna go watch Ant-Man tomorrow, so, we'll report back on whether that was good or not. But yeah, I think I enjoy Marvel movies better than I enjoy Star Wars movies
As of recent,
across the board. So, what's that?
I think I think as of recent, there haven't been too many of the Star Wars movies in a while. I feel like too.
Okay, let me
Um,
ask you
And
like an offshoot question because this is not part of the would you rather. Which Marvel character would you want to be? Since you both
go for it,
chose Marvel
Tony.
films.
huh. Huh. Okay, like, are we talking about, like, oh, like, which one? If you're asking me, I'm gonna look too deeply into this question. So,
That's okay.
like,
Go for it.
narratively, who do I think has a really good story versus like, oh, like, who has cool powers and who's like
Uh-huh.
interesting? Like, I think the X-Men have really cool powers. I think they have a cool uh, narrative background, but there's too many of them to pick one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Wolverine is cool in some ways, but also kind of a creep because he keeps trying to steal Cyclops' girlfriend. Um,
It's also just tragic.
he is tragic. Yeah, that guy has that. Now, there's a guy who has too much time. Um,
Yeah. Which
but
you think that Wolverine's gonna show up in Deadpool 3?
yeah, they already said they didn't
Oh
they already say
yeah.
he was casted in it.
I don't know. I just saw a picture. I mean, Hugh Jackman and
Hmm.
Ryan Reynolds are like really good
Yeah,
friends. So
moneymakers.
yes. But I just saw a picture of them together. That's why it popped in my
Mhm.
head. I didn't realize that was actually officially. Obviously, I'm not a hardcore Marvel fan because if I was, then I would have known that. But whatever. Continue.
I think that, like, the basic answer is going to be Spider-Man. Like, everyone likes Spider-Man.
Hmm.
That's a simple answer. That's like the equivalent to Batman. Um,
Hmm.
but if I dig a little deeper, I'm sure there's another character that I could think of. Hmm.
I
I'm gonna
think
throw.
from the tech aspect, and just like power and money. I like Iron Man. If I had to just choose one, maybe maybe also a simple
Wow, but that
answer.
is
Um,
one guy who could have had more time, but doesn't. So I think it's so
sure.
interesting that you're choosing money
Yeah.
now
You're gonna have
over
to
a
tag this with
character who's
No,
still
spoilers.
not
alive.
no. That's fair.
Am
All
I
right.
conflating the two? Should I not be doing that?
It's just different answers, different
True,
questions.
true. True, true. Okay. All right. We'll do another question. Would you want to visit the International Space Station for a week or spend a week in a hotel at the bottom of the ocean?
I will take this one first, and I will go International Space Station for sure. Just amazing, amazing views of Earth and space, and the experience getting there. Um, probably would be very weird for somebody not an astronaut, but still, I think it could be a lot of fun to be at the space station and experience different, gravitational effects and stuff like that. And the bottom of the ocean just doesn't seem, for some reason, as exciting to me.
I'll engage. I'll debate this one.
All right.
Because I do agree with you. Like I think it'd be really cool to go out in outer space. But there is one aspect of going to the bottom of the ocean that is extremely interesting. And it's that very few people have done that. Less people have gone to the
Sure.
bottom of the ocean than have gone to space. Um, and there's something like there's so much unknown about what's down there, what's been seen. We don't even know all the species of fish that live in the bottom of the ocean, or what it
Mm-hmm.
looks to like down there. That there's something very intriguing about being somebody who's in and basically, like, here's what I'm saying: you would be in a smaller club by being in the bottom of the ocean club than by being in
Sure.
the outer space club. That's
Sure.
that's why I picked that one over the other one.
Okay. I mean, I would
Well,
honestly also choose the bottom of the ocean myself, just because I think there's species of aquatic animals that are yet to be found and discovered. And I think that just would be interesting. And to know that you're just safe in a hotel, like nobody's going to eat you or anything like that. Like that's the
oh well, like
underlying.
Mm-hmm.
there's no guarantee of that because you don't know what's down there.
Well, in my mind for this question, that was like the assumptions that I was making. I think that's interesting. I don't know if I would want to go if there's a potential for me to die and
Well,
get
There's
eaten
definitely
by some
potential for you to
unknown.
die going to space.
well, yes, there's
Yeah.
potential for both of
Okay,
these.
okay, okay, okay. Yeah. Okay, fine.
Hmm.
I still would choose the bottom of the ocean though, because I just think that that's. I mean, unless I'm going for like majestic, because I will say like the what you would see from the International Space Station would be very majestic. Like you are looking at photos that are typically sent down to Earth that we see on a screen, but you get to see it like in real life. Like that would be really cool.
I'm curious which one's
So
more
yeah, I guess it depends
dangerous.
on.
I'm kind of
Which
curious, like,
one's
which
more
one is, like,
dangerous?
yeah, which one is more dangerous? Because it seems like both if something breaks or ruptures, it's like you're done. That's it.
Yep,
No more.
Mm-hmm.
morbid.
hmm But
Okay.
here's another thing. I'm gonna throw one more in there. If
All right.
you there's more likely you're gonna discover something new at the bottom of the ocean. Not no, I'm wrong. That's not true. I don't know. I have that's an unfound fact
Uh-huh.
that I was gonna say. But it would be cool to discover something new, right? Either
Mm-hmm.
way, if you're up there or you're down there, discovery is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and being able to live to tell the story about it.
Yes.
So that's
Ideally,
why I
yep.
said assumption is we're all going to be safe in these things. It's going to be fine. All right, one last question, and then we'll wrap. Final question here. Would you rather know how you will die Or know when.
Go for it, Tenny.
I'll go with when.
Every other.
Yeah, I'd probably go with when.
Huh.
I think that I'm trying to think of that's like a big the movie Big Fish. That's what I'm kind of thinking of.
Mm.
If you've seen it, you got really philosophical on us, Ashley. Like you were starting off
I
with, do you want to
did.
be in a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie? And now, like if you could choose, if you could find out how you would die versus when you would die, then
When?
then yeah, if it was how I was gonna die, and it was like you're gonna die at a Chuck E. Cheese, then I'm gonna be like I'm avoiding Chuck E. Cheese for the rest of my
Well,
life.
that's what I was thinking. I was like, shouldn't you want to know how you will die? Because
Hmm.
then you can just avoid it for as long as you can.
You're assuming you can avoid it.
Yeah.
This is true.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Based on
I,
your question,
It's a
it
very
sounds
good
like it's
assumption.
unavoidable.
This is true. I mean,
Hmm.
we are all gonna die at some point. That is just
Hmm.
the fact of life. It's just which information would be more valuable to you.
I'd be
The
super
value of
reckless if I
knowledge.
knew when. Be like, oh yeah, you know when?
Oh man.
yeah,
Uh,
I would.
sorry,
I would
Michael. You
pick
also
when.
said when. Okay.
Yeah, I would pick when for sure.
Hmm. And then you know how to live out the rest of your days. Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
the other
this has
time.
been insightful. Uh-huh. I've learned something new about Tony, and I've learned much more about you, Michael. So thank you so much. This has been an excellent episode. I've loved just kind of digging into how you manage your team and your strengths and how that all plays into scaling a big team, and also just how you take care of your team, which I love hearing about. So thank you so much again for being on our show. And I think it's time for Tony and I to wrap it up.
All right. Thank you guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you again so much for joining Tony and I and this journey with Michael Roberts from Abbott. It has been excellent to just learn about product security and learning how to build a team. I think those are both things that Tony and I have not really interacted with much. So it's just
Yeah.
great to learn. Um, with that said,
Mhm.
I think our next episode is going to be in 2 weeks. So definitely stay tuned on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, whichever channel that you're paying attention to. Same time, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Tune in 2 weeks, Wednesday, March 1st. We will see you then. Take care.